everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sisters in Service. This is your host, Kat Corchado. And today we have Lizz Baxter. She's a realtor and she's also an Army veteran. And we're going to let Lizz tell us a little bit more about herself. So Lizz, welcome to Sisters in Service. So happy to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Lizz.
So my name is Lizz Baxter. In my younger years, they called me Elizabeth. So that's my full name is Elizabeth Baxter, but I go by Lizz with two Z's these days. It makes my name longer. So I am from Nebraska originally, and I moved to North Carolina in 2012. It was one of the best decisions I've made in my life. So I was just very excited for it. I call North Carolina the California of the East. It's more affordable and it's just as beautiful, if not more beautiful. I might be partial there. So yeah. That's a little bit about my history. And I guess we'll probably get into the military part, but I joined the military when I was 17 years old.
Wow.
And yep, I shipped out. I funny connection back to the Carolinas is I did my basic training in Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So that was kind of a cool thing to kind of come back after some years of being away. But yeah.
Oh, thank you. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
So Army, was there any reason why you did Army versus any of the other services?
That's funny you ask. So I was very eager to get in. I wanted to join the Navy. And I kind of talked to the different recruiters, and one of the recruiter was not in the office that day, and the Army recruiter caught me first. And so he was like, well, how soon? Exactly. He said, well, how soon do you want to leave? And I was like, well, how soon can you get me on the bus? Right. So that was kind of the 17-year-old decision in me was how soon can I go?
That's interesting. I almost went. So for those of you that don't know, my dad was Air Force and I'm Air Force, but I almost went into the Navy because their dress whites were beautiful.
Me too.
Thought,
they had me at the outfit.
Gorgeous. I know. And the guy knew me. He goes, look, stay in your lane. Just go in the Air Force like your dad. I'm like, okay. So you're from Nebraska. What part?
I'm from the western part of the state, it's a mid-sized town called North Platte, Nebraska. It's a railroad town. It has one of the largest rail yards in the nation. That's our claim to fame. And the rodeo.
Yes, can't forget the rodeo. And it's so funny because I spent 12 years in Nebraska at Offutt Air Force Base.
Yes. Yeah, I worked there. There. Yeah. And I was a lifeguard. Yeah.
Yeah. My son was, I think, either 4th or 5th grade when we arrived there, and he went through the entire school system, including going to college at Lincoln. So, that's cool. How long. And I met my husband there. So that's how long I was there.
Small world. Omaha has wonderful people, and everybody that's there is just like, it's not the most glamorous base, but the people are wonderful. Right.
Well, I can tell you that Nebraska, I want COVID to be over so bad. I'm saying post-COVID. Pre-COVID, when I was there, had some of the best schools and some of the best hospitals there. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were right on point, So I have some good memories of Omaha. And my son is still there, by the way.
Really?
He still lives there. Yes, he does.
That's wonderful.
So being in the Army, I always ask this question too. What was your best assignment and what was your worst assignment?
Oh, you're going to laugh. I have the silliest story. So I was a cook in the military, which my recruiter, you know how the recruiters are, they always tell you the truth. If he said, oh, you should be a cook because, you get half the day off, you're going to just have all this time. Well, little did I know that my job was to be on Thursday mornings, I think it was, we had to be in the kitchen at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh
So
my goodness.
instead of going to sleep, we would stay up all night and maybe party a little, maybe not. I don't know. I can't say for sure, but until 3 o'clock in the morning when we had to be at work. So I would say I'm not a morning person. But I do like a good party, but being at work at 3 o'clock in the morning is not my brightest moments. And
Mhm.
the funny thing is, one of the best assignments I had was when I was deployed to Kuwait. We were getting acclimated to the weather, and we we got into Kuwait, and I had gotten myself in a little trouble for being a little sassy, and I had to go do a trash detail. But
Ugh,
the coolest thing about this trash detail was I didn't have to wear my uniform because it was so hot outside that we got to take our uniforms off, and I got to walk on the perimeter of where we were in this base in the middle of the
right.
desert, and I got to see as far as you could see from the top of this hill. And it was the most surreal, amazing experience, and I was
I
so
know.
grateful that I had to be on this trash detail because it was like I would have never gotten to see that otherwise.
Right. It's really weird. When I was in the military, I was in communications and I was in the message center, which we had, classified information. So back in the day, like way, way back in the olden days, we had to burn the classified. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
someone would always say, no one wanted to go on the track on the detail to burn. And I was always the first one. I'm like, I'll go. Because
I'll
it meant
go.
I didn't have to be in the message center. I could just go, you watch you make sure everything's burned. You spend 2 or 3 hours, you go back, and you're like,
Yeah.
hey, this is cool.
Some quiet time,
I
some
know, right?
alone time. Yeah.
I loved it. Um, so as Liz had said, she is a licensed realtor in North Carolina and South Carolina. And so, Liz, did you know that's what you wanted to do upon leaving the Army?
I wish. It would have made my life. Well, I've had some really. I'm probably the person of like 1,000 jobs. I like experiences in life, so I've had a lot of different roles, but all of those roles kind of led me back or gave me the experience that I needed in real estate, which I think was really interesting.
Mhm.
So I got into real estate. I bought my first house when I was 22, right out of the military. I called my stepdad and I said, I think I want to buy a house. And I had a bunch. I had a bunch, a bunch for that time, right? I had some hazard pay that just had been sitting in the bank, for a couple of years, and so I was like, I think I could use that money for a down payment. He's, oh yeah, that's a great idea. So he comes up and he helps me out, and he's, oh, that's such a great idea. Well, it was an investment property. So it
Mhm.
had a tenant in it. It had a tenant. It was a split level duplex. It had a tenant in the basement, and I was going to move into the top floor. And I negotiated the wholesale myself because it was a for sale by owner situation. And
Mhm.
here I was, 22 years old, and didn't know a thing about a loan, didn't know a thing about anything. And I kind of negotiated this deal. I got a brand new roof on the garage. I got all the closing costs paid for. I don't know how I did it. It was just kind of like, just ask questions. And
Right.
fast forward, gosh, probably 10 years, I sold my second house. I was going through the process of selling my house, and I was like, I think I'd be good at this. I think I could do
Yeah.
this. And so I called my realtor that I was working with at the time and she's like, you would be great. And so I was like, okay. And so I signed up for the classes and took the classes and did well on the test. And here I am.
Wow. Well, I know that it's really funny before when we had bought, my husband and I bought and sold several houses. And the very first house we ever bought was in South Carolina because I had a follow on assignment from Korea to Charleston. So we bought a house. And I remember our realtor, bless her heart. So, it's South Carolina in July.
Oh no.
She's about 8.5 months pregnant, bless her heart.
Oh goodness.
And she was so sweet. She was just like, I'll take you anywhere you want to go. And we're like, okay, we've seen 5 houses, we're good, right? And so we saw this one house had been empty. And from the time we put an offer in, we closed within 10 days. I mean, it was,
Wow.
we're like, because everyone kept saying, oh, buying a house is so hard. And we're like, no, it isn't.
Right.
It's easy. We just did it. Yeah, little did we know. So how long have you been a realtor, and what do you enjoy the most about it?
So I passed my test in 2017. And as we know, you don't really become a realtor until like maybe like a year or two after that, because I mean, you know the rules, right? But you haven't
Right.
had enough experience to know. You have to really lean on your colleagues and other people in the business to just say, like, has this happened before? That
Right.
sort of thing. And so I would say I was very fortunate. I got in in a good market. And so I did 24 transactions in my first year.
Wow.
Um,
That
which apparently
that's
is
superstar status, man.
which apparently is a thing, which is funny because I had no clue. Like I was just kind of like, okay, like let's do this,
You're
you
like, wow,
know.
this is easy.
I had some amazing mentors. I had some amazing help. So I had to pay it forward. But, having that experience really helped me level up very quickly.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I loved it. I did it. I just did what needed to be done. And I have a lot of legal background knowledge from working in law offices. And I think that really
Oh,
helped
that
me a
helps.
lot because I was like,
Right.
oh, I can't answer that question. We need an attorney for this, that sort of thing.
Right.
And I'm not intimidated by attorneys because that can be intimidating, right?
Oh,
To
they
go into
can
these
be. Yeah,
worlds,
they can be.
and so yeah, that's kind of where things started for me, and has just
Mhm.
kind of progressed from there.
That's great. So you're like, seeing your face everywhere in North Carolina is like, buy a house for me. Or, how you see those advertisements, like, I know her.
Well, I always ask, I'm like, do I look the same in my picture as I do in real life? Because you know how that goes.
I know. You're like, wait, something's wrong here.
Like, oh, that's you.
I know. Oh, I'm sorry. So, speaking of North Carolina and South Carolina, how's the market since we've been in this COVID era? I've heard that the market's on fire. Is that true?
Well, yes, it is. The market is. I keep hearing from the veteran real estate agents that veterans in the business that are saying, I've never seen a market like this before. So we're in a very unprecedented market. I mean, especially with COVID. So, there was a big scare. People couldn't move or didn't want to move. They didn't know if they could move. And then, the interest rates dropped. And so
Right.
we have 10 years of after the recession where building wasn't really happening that much. And so what has happened is the inventory has shrunk because the building wasn't keeping up with the demand. And it makes complete sense because builders were scared from what happened in 2008.
Mhm.
And so that's the market that we're seeing right now, but buyers really want to get in. So what's hot about the market is once a house comes on the market from a seller's perspective, you're going to have a line of cars down the street,
Right.
of course if the property's priced well. um,
Exactly.
and so it has to meet the market. But after COVID, we just saw a big spike go back up, because
Mhm.
the demand was there and the interest rates were there. Because if maybe you didn't qualify with an interest rate a few years ago, you could buy more
Right.
house for a lower payment with the lower interest
Mhm.
rate.
Yeah. It's interesting, because if you don't know the market, and I don't know a whole lot of people unless it's just a hobby who aren't realtors who really track, what the market's doing.
Hmm.
And I thought the funniest thing, so what my audience doesn't know is that I'm also a licensed realtor, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. I mean, just to be honest. And that's why I'm interviewing Liz on Sisters of Service, because I'm like, I want to talk
It's
about this.
not for everyone.
But I think that the funny thing was that, you would be selling a house, or, you have a client who's selling a house, and then there was a person down the street who has a house that looks similar. And so they would say, hey, there's a house that just, it sold for, let's say 400,000. You're like, why can't mine sell for 400,000? I'm like, have you been inside that house? Because it could be the Taj Mahal for all you know when you walk in, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so people only see, what they think it sold for, and it was really hard, really difficult to convince people, that their house may or may not be exactly like that house, especially in location and everything. So, I just decided to stay in my lane. It's very cool. It was a learning experience for
Oh,
me.
yeah.
I still have my license because I went through too much to get that license. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because North Carolina, for all you people who are in other states listening to this, North Carolina is the hardest state to get your license.
Yes.
Okay. The
Agreed.
hardest. Oh my gosh. Okay. And it took a while. So I am not letting that puppy go for nothing. Okay. I
Don't
mean,
do it. Don't let it go. Don't let it go.
I'm not letting it go. Okay, Liz, what advice would you give another veteran getting out of the military who maybe wanted to get into real estate?
Yeah, I mean, I think getting into real estate is, you have to know a little bit about what it entails. But I think that getting a real estate license is just a great tool for learning how to buy a house in general. There's always, with everything, there's fees associated with it. So as you know, maintaining your license is not free.
Mm, right.
And so, just thinking about the upfront cost, knowing what your upfront costs are, getting into it, seeing if it's worth it for you, or seeing if it's just better if you just have a conversation with someone. I always
Right.
encourage people to ask and see if it's a right fit for them, because like you said, it's not everyone's cup of tea. It is a lot of, you are on all the time.
Yes.
If you turn off, you might miss something. And you really have to set your, know what your goals are, what your boundaries are, what you want for a client, but you don't know all of that in the beginning.
Exactly.
And it's, and it can be, I don't know. I mean, I feel like with veterans, we're really resilient people, and we're really great problem solvers. And I think that and we are used to following good systems, and I think that makes us really strong. And I think partnerships are really great in that world too. So,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I never say that it's a bad idea. It's just know what you're getting yourself into, and sometimes don't quit your day job.
Right. I mean, again, you don't know what you don't know, but I would
Mm-hmm.
do as much research and talk to as many people that are who were veterans and then got into into real estate, and know the highs and the lows of this, because the highs are really high and the lows are really low.
Really low. You have to change your tone of voice.
I know, it was weird because, you get your license and you feel all good. And then, you start getting these phone calls. They're like, hey, we've got this really cool system. You're like, okay, great. And they're like, it's only $600 a month. And you're like, what?
Wait, what?
What?
You'll get more phone calls from vendors than you will for clients.
I know. I'm like, wait, what? No, I just paid this money for my license.
There's
So,
a lot of distraction, a lot of noise out
yes,
there. Yep.
exactly. Speaking on veterans and their VA benefits and their VA certificate, a lot of people don't know what those benefits are. So, what are the benefits of having a VA certificate versus not having one?
Yeah. So I would say the VA certificate is something, I mean, you can get it on your own, through the VA. Just know that the VA is not giving you the loan. So you
Right.
have to qualify through any bank. There's lots of banks with the name veteran in it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're the only ones that can give you a VA loan. All banks,
Right.
all different types of lenders. So finding a lender that suits your needs and your personality and who's going to explain things well to you is really important. So the
Right.
certificate of eligibility is really how you get it. And I would say, just at least if you're looking at houses, do it enough in advance so that you have it in your hand, or
Right.
talk to a lender enough in advance so that they can help you get it. Because they can walk you through the steps. And sometimes that's helpful because then you have someone to talk to about it.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think it's really important for veterans to always have it as an option, but just know that it's not your only option. You can qualify for other different types of loans. I think you'll find this interesting. I've actually never used my VA loan. I've bought 3 houses, but I've used every single different type of loan, because I had to do a rehab on one house. Another house was an investment property. And so
Mhm.
like there were all these different nuances. So, the VA is really straightforward for a house that you live in. It's not for an investment property. It's not for, it can be used in the future if you have a property and then you want to move into a new house. But in order to originate the loan, you have to
Mhm.
live in the home.
Right.
Um, and so there's lots of different nuances with the VA loan, but it's wonderful. I mean, there's no down payment required. But what I think confuses a lot of veterans is it's not free. So you do have
Exactly.
closing costs. You do have some costs that you'll need to set aside to plan for any emergencies and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
no down payment is the great advantage of it, but you do have
Yes.
to come to the table with some closing cost money, some cash to close, as
Mhm.
you may have heard it called.
And it's always best to have that. I mean, we've had, loans where we didn't have to have the closing costs, but that doesn't mean that we didn't have the money just in case they came
Just
back and
in
said,
case
oh, by the way,
Yep,
you
yep.
have to have this. Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean that's
absolutely.
the greatest thing that we've learned in the military is to be prepared, right? To always be one step ahead, in case that's something that needs to be available. And it's always great to have extra funds, especially when you're a homeowner.
Right. And I know that VA benefit, the amount that you qualify for has been going up. It's quite high now, isn't it?
It is quite high. Yep, it's in the 500s now. Yeah, I know. Can you believe it? But that
No.
doesn't mean that you're capped at that, right? So there
Right.
is. So a lot of people are like, I can't buy over that, or I can buy up to that. That doesn't necessarily mean you qualify for that because you have to have the income for that.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that you can't buy over that, because it just means that there's a little bit different nuance with a down payment and then an interest once you get beyond that 500 plus threshold.
And sometimes, even if you do qualify for it, you don't want to be house poor. You don't want to say, hey, I live in this house and it's a gorgeous house, but there's no furniture in it. The lights aren't on. You know, it's
I really love that statement that you said. Yeah, house poor, right? Like, yes, you really have to make sure it's within your limits. And the great thing is the lenders can break it down for you. Or I mean, even the online mortgage calculators can
Mhm.
break it down for you enough to know what your principal and interest will be.
Right.
Just remember that taxes and insurance will be added onto that as well. That's one part that kind of becomes a surprise when the closing documents come through. Is like, what's this extra couple $100s?
Exactly. Well, I know that my husband and I both have certificates, our VA certificates. So what's interesting is that one of us would have used our VA certificate for the house we have now, but the other person, if we decided to go into an investment, buy an investment property, we could also buy an investment property as long as it doesn't go over and above whatever that amount is. But we still have to qualify for the loan.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. And that's the great thing, about, couples that are veterans, because you can use those VA benefits independently of each other, which I think is really cool. Oh, I was going to tell you the cap now, it just increased. So it was 510, 400 in 2020. And in
Mhm.
2021, they increased it to 500,048 to 50.
Wow.
Can you believe it? That's insane.
That's a nice house.
Yep.
It's
That's
a
a good
nice
house.
house.
Yep,
I don't want
especially in the
that house payment
Carolinas.
though. I don't want that mortgage payment.
Come on down to the Carolinas.
But that same, like, what's funny is that we bought our second house in Massachusetts. And so this was back in like 2000. And we were like, oh, we had a guaranteed loan for 250,000. Imagine, okay. We started off in Boston and we kept going back and back and back because 250,000 in Boston gets you maybe a garage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And it's amazing different places, 250,000 in Boston will get you a really nice house in Charlotte, you
Oh,
know.
yeah.
But it's just remarkable the difference, what you get for the same amount of money.
Yep.
Now, I know you probably answered this already, but can you say again, if you have lost your VA benefit or your VA certificate, how do you go about getting that again?
Usually, so the veterans, there's a website. Let's see, I'm looking it up. It's always got, you always have to do gov in the background. It's
Right.
legit if it says gov in the background. Remember, do your recon. There, if it says
Like
.com, it's probably
a true
somebody trying to
veteran.
sell you something. But yeah, you'll go through a lender. I feel like is really important because then they can tell you, and by lender, I mean, bank,
Right.
your credit union, those sort of things. It's the best way to do it because they can answer your questions and how it applies to your specific situation. If you get lost on the internet, you're going to get all sorts of advice you never asked for, and it'll cause you confusion. So I think that's really the best way. But always look for that .gov anytime you see it, because if you type in veterans loan, somebody paid for that spot at the top of the
Exactly.
list, and be on the lookout for that. So it's
Oh, yeah. That's good advice. So, what is the best way to find a realtor who's also a veteran? Now, before you answer that,
mhm.
when we were buying our house in Massachusetts, and we thought we were being cute, we're like, oh, let's interview realtors and everything. And we asked them, are you familiar with, the VA home loan, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And come to find out, she had never done one
Mhm.
ever.
Mhm.
And it was a nightmare. I
Yep.
mean, it was a true nightmare. So if I am someone who is looking to buy a house in North Carolina or South Carolina, and I'm looking for someone who is specifically a veteran who is also a realtor, how would you go about doing that? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I'm glad that you said that, Kat, because they're honestly like the VA loan has so much nuance. And even though I haven't personally used it myself, I've walked a lot of my clients through it. And I know that
Mhm.
I know what veterans expect because I was a veteran. I know what I expect. And we all have this same conversation. And so, um, and the VA loan can have a bad rep among realtors because of the back in 2008 there was a lot of strict rules with homes
Mhm.
that were not well cared for,
Right,
and needed a lot of rehab and that sort of stuff. And I think a lot of realtors that don't work with veterans stuck in that mindset. And I
right.
am praying that this gets changed because this loan is fantastic and it's great for veterans.
Mhm.
And but finding other veterans, I would say the first stop is go through your local veteran organizations, because
Right.
there's more than likely going to be a veteran realtor there that's involved, and you want somebody who's involved in the veteran community and who's having these conversations all the time. So for instance, here in Charlotte, some of the organizations like Veterans Bridge Home and
Mhm.
those organizations that really you want a realtor that's involved with the community and is having these
Right.
conversations. There's stuff online, but I just really feel like veterans really need to be careful with that, because I think that
Mhm.
there can be a lot of false advertising, because technically any realtor can work with a veteran and a veteran's
Right.
loan. But do you want the one that has worked with a lot of veterans, that has had that experience with what veterans are looking for and
Right.
their needs?
So in other words, get out and network with your
Yep.
veteran
Get out and
organization.
network.
Find out. Yeah,
Because it
absolutely.
can help you in so many other ways, right? It can help you with employment. It can help you with those sort of things, which all are part of buying a house, right? Like you can't, you have to have that income and, learning about credit and all of that stuff. You want to have somebody you're comfortable talking about these really, really personal information.
Right. Well, I think the other thing too is that the VA loan, and I think the reason that Liz was talking about how some realtors aren't really, they don't like the VA loans because the VA loan is there to protect the buyer.
Yep.
So, for instance, again, I'm going back to Massachusetts, the house that we bought wasn't tied into, it has septic tank.
Mm-hmm.
And the VA said, no, if you're going to buy this house, it needs to be tied into the local city system.
Yep.
And it was there. And, of course, the realtor was upset, but the sellers said, okay, fine, we'll do that. But it's there to protect the buyer, to make sure that, there's nothing wrong with the house. And the inspections, if I remember correctly, the inspections are a little more intense too, aren't they?
Yeah.
Is that still the reason? Is that still
Yeah.
the
I mean, they were back in the day. If the lender finds out, that there's any structural damage, like you said, with the septic tank, that sort of stuff, you're right. Those are extra costs that can be really, really challenging for certain buyers. And, and so as you're going through these inspections, it really does protect the buyer. And I think that that's
Yes.
really, really important.
I think so too. It's kind of like having someone on your side because, sometimes when you don't know what you don't know, you feel like people are just, yeah, you got to pay this and take this and do this. And you're like, wait, because no one educates. No one says, okay, sit down, you're going to learn about real estate, and how to buy
Right.
a house. No one does that. So
Right.
that's really good advice. So Liz, 3 top questions to ask a realtor. So if I am someone who wants to buy a house, what would you think would be the 3 top questions that I should ask the realtor that I've found to help me in this endeavor?
So I like that question. And I'm maybe going to kind of reverse it a little bit to what questions should you ask yourself? Um,
Can I afford it? Oh,
well, but also, who do you want to spend the next month or so, maybe 2 months with, maybe 3 months, right? Because I give people, I say 3 to 6 months is the amount of time that you really want to start the process so that you feel relaxed. Who's going to educate you? You really listen for, these educational pieces. Look for who. Look for ways that you can trust this person that you're working with, right? Are they going to give you the best representation, or are they trying to sell you a house that you can't afford and it's, and they want to close tomorrow because they need a paycheck, and sometimes, that can be a scenario that people find themselves in. And so is it going to work out that it's going to be in the best interest with you? Are they being honest with you and saying, like, you know what, you might not be ready right now, or you thought that you wanted this amount, but you're actually at this amount, and that might not be what you want right now.
right.
And so, I think that that's really important to ask yourself first as you're interviewing people, because I think that the top 3 things that real estate agents really need to be able to do is fully represent their clients, and also, be able to negotiate, right? And get you the best representation as a buyer, but also as a seller, right? Because on the seller side, you have to be prepared for these unknowns, and how much is the agent preparing you, or just kind of pushing it off to where you're in the contract on another house, and then you've got to move, and then you're in a bind, and then you have to give up some things.
Right.
So so
And you
these are
want your
kind of the
realtor
things
to
to
be
evaluate.
honest with you.
Yep.
You want honesty.
Honesty.
Be straight up.
Yep.
I think one of the things that was really important to me is that I had to like my realtor.
Yeah.
And asked her a question, or him or her, and they said, well, I don't know that, but I will get back to you. I'm like, okay, that made me feel good. It's a
Right.
warm fuzzy. Okay, fine. I'm okay with that.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Last but not least, advice for anyone buying or selling a house. So, quick story. When I had a client who was ready to buy a house, you know, and I sat her down, and she's like, okay, my house is, it's got to be this, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, blah, 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 all of this stuff. I said, okay. And I would show her all of this stuff, and she's like, no, but you know, the walls aren't the right color. And I'm like, wait a minute. So when you're buying a house, realize, I used to ask the question, what one thing that you want in your house could you not live without? Okay. So if you
Mm-hmm.
say, I have to have a pool in my house, I'm not going to show you any houses without a pool. I'm just not. So I'm sorry, I just had to say that because, sometimes you'll look at 40 houses and like, I forgot what number one looked like. We're like, we're not going back to the pool.
Exactly. Like, it's already gone.
It's gone. It's gone.
Yeah.
And in this
Well,
market, it probably is gone.
and I guess that's true. I mean, it depends on what kind of market you're in, right? And it has been like this since 2017 when I started. It's make a move. We had a little bit more time to make a decision back in 2017, but now it's really a process of elimination, not a process of selection. So you have to really narrow down, and like I do tell my clients this. It's like, be picky. If you're not willing to compromise on something, you can be picky about it. But
Right.
but all homes are going to be about 85% there.
Right.
So nothing is going to be 100%. These people that
Right.
build $1 million homes, and their custom home that they want, you'll walk them through the house and they'll say, I would have moved this room over here, or I would have, made this thing this countertop higher, or, so if it's 85% there, speaking to the paint color on the walls, like,
Right.
what are you willing to do? What are you not willing to do? And also, and then for the sellers as well, you don't want to over improve your house, right? Like, you don't want to
Right.
put marble floors in your, 400 square foot condo,
Right.
so it's
Bad idea. Bad idea.
exactly. So before you make any improvements, call your realtor. Like, they will be happy to say, like, hey, use this person. Like, this is what's trending. This is what's, you don't want to put those marble floors in because you're not going to get your money back out of them,
Right.
really. And then doing things that you enjoy for yourself. Don't improve your house for the future owner.
Exactly.
Um,
Do it
you,
for you.
do it for you. You have to live in the house every day. And so that's one of the things that I always, focus on, because I hear a lot of this conversation. Oh, what's good for resale? What's good for resale? I'm like, well, what do you
Yeah.
like? How much longer are you going to have to live here? What's good for resale today is not good for resale tomorrow.
Right. I mean, I heard about, what is it? It was a few years ago, like farmhouse doors,
Oh yeah,
where
they were
the
so in.
grill. And now
Yeah.
they're so out. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
they're not in anymore. It's like, okay, you just spent all this money on
And they
farmhouse
were
doors.
expensive. They were
Yes.
expensive. I mean, I
Yes.
look at these homes, some of the homes that I've been in. My favorite, obviously, is the era that you remember the most, right? So like
Mhm.
you're kind of early 20s, and you're like, oh my
Right.
gosh, I remember like the glass countertops and
Yeah.
the lights all in the weird places,
Yes.
and really, really big open spaces that you can't do anything with, and so I go in those houses and I was just laughing at myself. Like, I thought that was the coolest. And then, like, who wants glass countertops that gets gross fingerprints all over it?
I know. You're like, oh yeah, now I remember why I didn't want to do this.
Exactly. Like, sometimes practical is just fine.
Absolutely. Well, Liz, it's been such a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for being on the show. And the best of luck to you.
Oh, thank you.
You sound like you don't need it.
Oh, stop. I always need luck.
I hope you will join us again for episode 14, where I will have as my guest Fostoria Pearson, president of the Blue Star Mothers chapter in Charlotte, North Carolina, and ex-wife of an abusive Marine husband. Listen in as we talk about her book, A Marine's Wife, A Battered Life, and what prompted her to tell her story of abuse. I also want to thank you for listening and hope that if you like what you hear, you will hit the subscribe button. In the meantime, please be safe and take care of each other. Until next time.